Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind, O people, in kuntum fi raybin, if you are in doubt, min al-ba'thi, concerning the resurrection. At the beginning of the surah, what was mentioned? The zalzalatus sa'ah. And then the attitude of those people who do not take it seriously is mentioned. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us logical evidences that prove the certainty of the Day of Judgment. That prove the possibility of the Day of Judgment. That how it can occur, it will occur, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. If you have doubt, then look at these evidences that Allah is presenting before you. So if you are in doubt, then remember that فَإِنَّا, then indeed we, خَلَقْنَاكُمْ, we created you, meaning your origin. The first human being, he was created from what? مِن تُرَابٍ, from dust. The first human being, Adam a.s., he was created from turab. ثُمَّ مِن نُطْفَةٍ, and then from a sperm drop. Meaning, and then the rest of the progeny, the rest of the human beings, the children of Adam a.s., they were created from what? From nutfah. And what is nutfah? Nutfah is from the root letters noon, ta, fa. And nutf is basically used for a qatr, a minute quantity of a liquid. Minute quantity. And from this, it is used for nutfah, which is a sperm. So, summa min nutfah, this is your origin. Something that is so minute, something that is so tiny. And then summa min alaqa, and then from alaqa, meaning after the stage of nutfah, you were turned into the stage of alaqa. What does alaqa mean? Alaqa is from the root letters ayn, lam, qaf. And alaqa is used for a clinging clot. A clot that sticks. It is basically a dam al-jamid, which is generally translated as congealed blood. Right? Like a clot of blood. But the word alaqa is also used for a leech. And if you look at it, a leech is what? It's a slug, it's an insect which looks like a snail. And once it sticks to something, what does it do? It sucks the blood out of it. Right? Which is why it's also used for the treatment that is similar to cupping, which is to extract the foul blood out of the body. And from this, the word alaq is also used for hanging, for being suspended in something. We learned earlier, فَتَذَرُوهَا كَالْمُعَلَّقَةِ, right? That a woman is neither divorced, nor is she given her rights, so she's left as mu'allaqa, suspended in the middle. Nor is she free to marry somebody else, nor is she being given her rights. خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ, He created the human being from alaq, from a blood clot. So what is this alaqa? Alaqa is the initial stage of the embryo, when it's just a clot of blood that has been implanted in the wall of the womb. It's the initial stage. And at this stage, it's suspended just like a leech is. And if you look at it, in its appearance, in its form, and also in its function, it's very similar to a leech. Because in a way, it's sucking the blood out of the mother. That's what it's sustaining on. So, ثُمَّ مِنْ عَلَقَةٍ, ثُمَّ مِنْ مُضْغَةٍ, and then from a mudgha. Meaning after the alaqa stage comes the mudgha stage. And what does mudgha mean? Mudgha is a lump of flesh. It's a piece of flesh. And typically it is used for such a piece of flesh, the size of which a person can easily chew. It's like a morsel of food that you can easily put it in your mouth and you can chew on it. So it's something very small, a bite size. Okay? So, mudgha, a small lump of flesh. And at this stage, the embryo, it appears to be like a chewed substance as well. Because if you observe it carefully, if you ever look at the pictures, at the very initial stage actually, after the first 40 days, the embryo looks like a chewed substance. Because as the backbone, it begins to appear, right? It seems as though somebody has chewed that part. So, ثُمَّ مِنْ مُضْغَةٍ. And this mudgha, it is مُخَلَّقَةٍ, it is formed, it is shaped, وَغَيْرِ مُخَلَّقَةٍ, and also unformed. What does it mean by this مُخَلَّقَةٍ وَغَيْرِ مُخَلَّقَةٍ? مُخَلَّقَةٍ literally means that which has been created, that which has been formed, that which has been molded. So the lump of flesh, it grows into either being مُخَلَّقَةٍ, meaning fully formed, with all of the limbs, everything that is necessary for the body, it is there. So مُخَلَّقَةٍ, fully formed. And غَيْر مُخَلَّقَةٍ, incomplete form, or that there is a defect. So مُخَلَّقَةٍ وَغَيْر مُخَلَّقَةٍ. لِنُبَيِّنَ لَكُمْ, so that we may make clear to you. Meaning we're telling you about this, we're telling you about the origin of your creation, about the process of your creation, so that we can make clear to you. Make clear to you what? The power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The perfect nature of His power. That if He is able to create you from the beginning, while you were nothing, and He can create you, making you undergo one stage after the other, then definitely He can recreate you. لِنُبَيِّنَ لَكُمْ, we're clarifying this to you. That if He can make you, if He can create you, then definitely He can recreate you as well. وَنُقِرُّ, and we make to settle. We make to stay. نُقِرُّ from the root letters, قاف را را, from the word qarar. And what does qarar mean? To become stable, to stay somewhere. So we make to stay, fil arhami, in the wombs, ma nasha, whatever we will. Meaning, one fetus, it grows until it is fully formed, and then it is given birth to. And what happens to other fetus that at a very initial stage, they are miscarried. So نُقِرُّ فِي الْأَرْحَامِ مَا نَشَاءُ, we cause to stay in the wombs whatever we will, and for however long we will. So it's based on what? On the will of Allah. On the will of Allah. إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى, until a fixed term. And what does this fixed term refer to? The time of birth. So some fetus, they grow until full term, and then they're given birth to. And others, what happens to them? They're born even before that, or they're miscarried before that. ثُمَّ نُخْرِجُكُمْ, then we bring you out, طِفْلًا, as a child. Meaning we bring you out of the wombs of your mothers as a tifl. Who is a tifl? A tifl is an infant, a small baby. And remember that tifl is used as ism jins, so it can be applied to masculine as well as feminine. So ثُمَّ نُخْرِجُكُمْ طِفْلًا, and once you are born as little infants, then what happens? ثُمَّ لِتَبْلُغُوا, then you all reach أَشُدَّكُمْ, your maturity. And what does ashud mean? When a person attains physical maturity. And not just physical, but also in his mind, in being able to distinguish between what is good and what is bad. And typically, ashud is used for the age of 40. When all of the strengths of a person, all of the abilities of a person, they become firm and strong. وَمِنْكُمْ, and among you, is man who yutawaffa, he is raised. Meaning there are some among you who die. Who die before when? Before even reaching ashud. There are some among you who die even before reaching ashud, even before reaching the age of 40. وَمِنْكُمْ, and among you there are those who live even longer than ashud. مَنْ يُرَدُّ, is one who is returned إِلَىٰ أَرْذَلِ الْعُمُرِ, to the most decrepit of age. أَرْذَلِ الْعُمُرِ, we have done this earlier as well. And what does it refer to? Extreme old age. And what is this extreme old age? In which a person is not just physically weak, he does not just physically grow old, but even mentally, in his memory, he becomes weak. لِكَيْلَا, so that not, يَعْلَمَ, he knows, مِن بَعْدِ عِلْمٍ, after knowledge, شَيْئًا, anything at all. Why? Due to extreme weakness. that he begins to lose his memory. He forgets what he knew before. He does not recognize those people whom he knew very well before. So this is one example, one proof, one logical evidence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to us to prove resurrection. And what is that? That if He can create you once, making you undergo so many stages, then definitely He can recreate you. Then Allah mentions another proof, another evidence, which is وَتَرَى الْأَرْضَ, and you see the earth, you see the land, هَامِدَةً, as barren. Hamida is from Ha, Mim, Dal. And humud is when land becomes extremely dry because it has not received water at all. So you can imagine a piece of land which has not received water in a very long time. What's going to happen to it? If there are any plants on it, they're going to die, right? Then the land is going to become extremely dry. So this is what humud is. From the same root, when the word humud, hamadatin now, when it's used for fire, it is when the fire is extinguished. And there's no more fire left. It's extinguished. It's put out. So وَتَرَى الْأَرْضَ هَامِدَةً, you see the earth as hamida, meaning barren, with nothing growing on it. But what happens? فَإِذَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْهَا الْمَاءِ, but then when we send down water on it, what happens to that same dry and barren land? اهتزت, it quivered. اهتزت from ha, zai, zai, haz. And what does haz mean? To move something, to shake something. هزي إليك بجذع النخلة. So, اهتزت, it is shaken up, it is animated. warabat, and it swells up. Rabat, from the root letters, ra, ba, well. And riba is also from the same root. What does rubub mean? To increase, to grow. So ihtazzat, it begins to move. And also rabat, it swells up. Because as it absorbs the water, as it takes the water in, it increases, it swells up. And it doesn't just stop there. وَأَنْبَتَتْ, and it grows. مِنْ كُلِّ زَوْجٍ بَهِيجٍ, every beautiful and lovely kind of plant. زَوْجٍ بَهِيجٍ. Bahij is from the root letters ba, ha, jim. And bahij is actually used for someone who is extremely happy, who is showing happiness, who is showing pleasure, who is very delighted. This is who bahij actually is. And when the word bahij is used for plants, what does it mean? Plants that are beautiful in their appearance, very bright in their colors, that are swaying back and forth with the breeze, with the water. This is what zawjin bahij refers to. So every kind of tree and shrub, different types of plants you see, but they're bahij. They are so beautiful, delightful, that as if they're happy, as if they're rejoicing. And when you look at them, even you rejoice. So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala presents two logical evidences for resurrection, for the fact of recreation. The first evidence is the creation of man in the womb in different stages. That how initially it's just a nutfa, and then it turns into alaqa, and then into mudgha. And then it continues until the human being is fully formed, and then it's given birth to. We learn from a hadith which is in Bukhari and Muslim, that the Prophet ﷺ said, every one of you, every single one of you is collected as a nutfa, as a sperm drop, in the womb of his mother. And it stays in that stage for the first 40 days. And then he becomes an alaqa, a clot, for another 40 days. And then a mudgha, a lump of flesh, for another 40 days. So we see that the first 40 days, nutfa. The second 40 days, alaqa. And the third 40 days, mudgha. So, after a completion of 120 days, then the angel blows the soul. We also learn from a hadith in Bukhari in which Anas ibn Malik, he narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah appoints an angel to every womb. Allah appoints an angel to every womb And that angel says, "Oh Lord, a sperm drop. Oh Lord, a clot." Meaning every time one stage is over and the next begins, the angel says, "Oh Lord, a sperm drop. Oh Lord, a clot. Oh Lord, a lump of flesh." And then if Allah desires to complete His creation, He does so. And the angel asks, "Oh Lord, is it to be male or female? Is it to be wretched or happy? What is its provision? What is its lifespan?" And all of this is decreed in the womb of the mother. Even before the child is born, the lifespan, the rizq, the final end, everything is written from then. Everything is decreed from then. So the Lord who can put the soul in that lifeless lump of flesh, can He not put the soul in a dead body that is already formed? Can He not? Of course He can. Can He not resurrect him? Of course He can. In Surah Al-Waqi'ah, ayah 57 to 62, we learn, نَحْنُ خَلَقْنَاكُمْ فَلَوْلَا تُصَدِّقُونَ. We have created you, so why do you not believe? Why do you not affirm? أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تُمْنُونَ. Have you seen that which you emit? أَأَنْتُمْ تَخْلُقُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Is it you who creates it, or are we the creators? نَحْنُ قَدَّرْنَا بَيْنَكُمُ الْمَوْتَ وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَسْبُوقِينَ. We have decreed death among you, and we are not to be outdone. عَلَىٰ أَن نُبَدِّلَ أَمْثَالَكُمْ. In that we will change your likenesses. وَنُنْشِئَكُمْ فِي مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And produce you in that form which you do not know. وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمُ النَّشْأَةَ الْأُولَى فَلَوْلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. And you have already known the first creation. You know about the first creation. So will you not remember? Will you not take a lesson from that? That if He can create you once, He can create you another time? In Surah Nuh, ayah 13 to 14, we learn, مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَرْجُونَ لِلَّهِ وَقَارًا وَقَدْ خَلَقَكُمْ أَطْوَارًا. That what is the matter with you, that you do not attribute to Allah due grandeur, while He created you in stages. He created you in so many stages, yet you do not respect Him. Yet you say that He cannot recreate you if He wants. If you look at it, when you see a child, especially a newborn child, isn't it amazing? You wonder, where did this person come from? Where did this child come from? And as a child is moving, as he opens his eyes, as he closes his eyes, as he opens his mouth, as he moves his hand, people observe every movement. And they're so amazed. Every single person, whether he likes children or he doesn't like children. People are fascinated by babies. But we see that despite the fact that we're so fascinated, we don't infer from that if Allah can create once, He can create again. The one who can bring the child out of the womb, He can also bring the person alive out of the earth. He can do that. It's not difficult for Him. Because if you look at it, the womb itself is also like a grave. Isn't it? Closed, sealed, hidden from people, unknown as to what's going on inside. And even under the earth is a grave and we don't know what's going on. So if Allah can create a person in the womb, can He not resurrect a person as he comes out of the grave? Of course He can. And the second evidence that is given over here is the growing of plants from dry and barren land. We learned that once a companion asked the Prophet ﷺ that, "O Prophet, give us an example of how Allah will bring people back to life." And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Have you ever passed through a dry and barren valley? Have you ever passed through a dry and barren valley on which there was nothing, and then you see it full of life again?" He said, this is how the people will be resurrected. And this is something that we can understand very well. Because in winter we see the trees are completely dead, not even a single leaf, not even a single petal. But those same shrubs, those same trees, those same plants, they're full of life. Zawjim bahij, as if they're rejoicing, as if they're happy with the life that they have received. So if Allah shows you this every year, Every year He shows this to you. That the plants that are dead, the leaves that are gone, and you don't think that those plants will ever come out again, but you see that life is growing out of them. You see plants coming forth. You see leaves coming out. I had this pot last year in which I had grown some herbs. And it was just sitting outside, and recently I just saw that there is one herb that is growing out of it. I was amazed, because generally these herbs you have to grow them every year yourself. Right? You have to put the seeds in yourself. Mint, okay, it grows by itself. But I was amazed that it had grown. Allahu A'lam how that seed or that part of it survived somehow. And with all the rain that is coming and with the little sunlight that it's receiving, it's growing again. So Allah shows you every year that it's not difficult for Him to regrow, to recreate. Then why do you doubt resurrection? ذَلِكَ, that is possible. Meaning He can create you in the womb and He can recreate plants. Why? بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ, because indeed Allah huwa al-haq. He is the truth. He is al-haq in His existence, in His oneness, in His power, in His promises. That whatever promises He makes, He fulfills them. In His ability, in His power, in His strength, He is al-haq. He is fully established. وَأَنَّهُ, and that indeed He, يُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى, He will give life to the dead. وَأَنَّهُ, and that indeed He, عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٍ, over everything He is competent, He is able. Therefore, do not dispute about Him. We learn in Surah Yasin, ayah number 79, قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ خَلْقٍ عَلِيمٍ. That say, He will give them life, the one who produced them the first time. The one who produced those same bones the first time, He can bring them to life again. And He is of all creation knowing. He is fully aware. وَأَنَّ السَّاعَةَ, and indeed the final hour, آتِيَةٌ, it is coming. لَا رَيْبَ فِيهَا, there is absolutely no doubt in it. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ, and that indeed Allah, يَبْعَثُ, He will resurrect. مَنْ فِي الْقُبُورِ, whoever is in the graves. Whoever is in the grave, Allah will resurrect him. And every single person, he will suffer from death. And he will end up in a grave. Whether that grave is a proper grave, or any kind of a grave it is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to resurrect every dead person. This is His promise. He will bring them back to life after all of them have turned into dust. We will listen to the recitation. Bismillah. We see that at the beginning of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells all people, ittaqu rabbakum, fear your Lord. But a person cannot fear his Lord unless and until he knows Him. Similarly, a person cannot fear the Day of Judgment unless and until he knows about it. Fear only comes with knowledge. And people who stay away from knowledge, people who stay away from educating themselves about these matters, what happens? They remain in their ignorance, and on the basis of that, they deny the truth. They doubt the truth. They reduce its value. They create doubts in other people as well. So we see that in these ayat, constantly what is being mentioned? That the Day of Judgment is a reality. Do not doubt it. Be certain about it, because only if you're certain about it, then you can do something. Then you can prepare. So we need to see that how actively are we preparing for that day? How much is it that we think about it? How much is it that we reflect over it? Believing in something does not just mean having a little bit of fear of it. Believing in something means preparing for it, doing something about it. Because if a person does not change his actions, then what does it mean? He's not certain about it. Despite the fact that it's mentioned so clearly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us directly, ittaqu rabbakum. Because many times we don't even get from the hints. We have to be told directly, ittaqu rabbakum. Do something to save yourselves. All the stages that are mentioned over here, what does it show? That we have absolutely no control over our lives or the life of our children. The entire control is with who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That it goes from nutfa to alaqa when Allah commands. It goes from alaqa to mudgha when Allah commands. Mukhallaqa, ghayr mukhallaqa when Allah commands. Many times, unfortunately, the way of Muslims is that we will take our religion by choice. We will become serious about it by choice. That we will say, I'm not that religious, but my mother is quite religious. But the fact is that when a person is a human being, then this day of judgment is going to come, whether he's serious about it or not. Whether he chooses to be knowledgeable about it or not. Whether he chooses to prepare for it or not. It's coming his way. So, it's for our own good if we become serious about it.